Hey guys and gals, so if you're around here regularly, you probably know what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to fix an image and get it ready for print. So we've got this image and it was shared via Google Drive, which is so appreciated because we actually get the real full quality. And that lets me really do a deep dive analysis on the image, like is it good? So I've downloaded the image. It's 3251 by 4051. So it's nice and big according to those pixel dimensions. So you've got, 3,000 pixels. That's about 10 inches wide by, I'm struggling with the math. About 13, I think, inches tall. So let's just open this up. I'm just going to open up in Windows Photo Viewer because there's a possibility that we don't have Photoshop, And as soon as I even just started to zoom in, I could tell we've got a problem. Like you can see it. It's real evident, even at 23, 25%. But if we go to 100%, which is the way we should be viewing images, wow, it is just lots of problems with this image, okay? And you can see all the jagged edges, and then just the image itself is very blurry. So what causes this? This happens because people increase the size without using an upscaler. So they've actually just increased the size of the pixels. So when you have an image like, that's small to start out with, and then you make it large, it actually is going to lose its quality. It's not going to, unless you upscale it. And an image like this, I would actually trace it. That's probably the right thing to do for something like this. Okay, so this image, let's try to fix it. It's nice and trimmed, which is wonderful. But I'm going to start out, I'm in Photoshop. I'm going to start out, increasing the dimensions to give myself a little room around the outside. So I'm just going to give myself 200 pixels around the outside. We want to trim it before we want to trim it. That's the plan before we send it to print. But while we're working, it's nice to just have a little bit of an outline like this. And then we're going to do image size. So I'm going to do image size, and it's super blurry. And I don't know how well that translates on the video, but I can see the blur right there. And I know that I've got to go much smaller. I'm going to go, 3 inches maybe. Yeah, it's better at 3 inches. That's for sure. Okay. Now, every single image is different. You take different approaches to solve different problems. I'm going to take this down to 3 inches. I'm going to hit OK. And then, there's a modeling of color that I can see. Like it's not terrible, but I do see like what I would call modeling. It's not. You got different colors. If you click here on this side, you see 006C24. Click over here, I've got 0163C5. They're all just about the same. I don't think there's any intentional color changes here. I think it's just all unintentional, just by not using the right techniques. So I also still see like, some really kind of messy parts of the letters, even at this, now that we've reduced the size so much. So I'm viewing it at 100%, and I still see what I would call jaggies. I'm not certain if we can solve those without ChatGPT, but I'm going to, we can always solve it without ChatGPT, but quickly. ChatGPT might be the best approach to actually render this smooth. But I'm going to try to do it without that, and then if we have to, we'll go back and we'll use it. So I'm just kind of outlining a plan. When you get presented with a challenge like this, you've got to kind of come up with a plan. So I'm going to put a solid color of white behind the image. And that's going to even further show those problems that I got. So this might actually need to get reduced even more. So we're going to go both ways. All right, I'm going to show you what you can do without ChatGPT, and then I'm going to probably have to go with it. And I see some problems right there. Looks like we've got some black inside this part of the image. So let's try just increasing the contrast, because we want to try to get something we can trace. And I do know that I should probably address this little problem right here before I move forward, because that's gonna follow us around. So I'm just going to try to fix that. I'm going to grab my lasso tool, and I'm just going to draw that out. I'm just going to make that a circle there. That's not really working for me. Let's try putting an ellipse, and I'll put whites. And let's just see if I can't just draw a circle there. It's about the right size, a little smaller. And then I'm just going to move it into place to just kind of cover up that little indiscretion. Okay. And then I'm just going to merge everything down. So I'm just going to merge it all down. So I've got a flat image. And then I'm going to do layer. Oh, let's just change this over to black and white. That's what we can do. We can do image adjustments, black and white. And we can grab our blues and make them black. Awesome. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to export this as a PNG. Everything's kind of an experiment, right? So I'm going to name this Turtle in Beach Club. And I'm going to call it black because that's just going to help me remember that it's not, I usually put like black or white or something just to remind myself this is not like the real image or the original image. And I'm just going to see if upscale can help us a little bit. So I'm going to take it upscale. Now that we've got it reduced, we'll upscale it. I'm going to go 2x and upscale it. So while that's running there, I'll talk about why I'm doing that. I'm just hoping that upscale will smooth out some of those jaggies. It really didn't need to be that much bigger to get a clean trace, but now it's 1800 by 2218. So we shrunk it down. We made it sharper by doing that. And then now we've upscaled it. And let's look at our results. So I think, yeah, see, it's just got those jaggies. It's just upscaled. It's the garbage in, garbage out philosophy. I don't really like that term, but I don't know a better way to say it. Since it had jaggies before, now we've just got bigger jaggies. Okay, so I think, I know that there's probably not a reason to keep moving without trying to do, without trying to go with like a recreation in ChatGPT, but I'm still going to try because I promised I would. I mean, we've got to get this thing really small. This might have originated as a super small image. And so I'm going to go all the way down to 1 inch on that size. And, when I'm changing those sizes, I've got it set to 300. So you could also like change it to pixels. So this is literally now just 1 inch. And I'm shaking my head, which you can't see, but I don't think this is going to go so well. But I'm going to go ahead and replace that. That's our problem a lot of times is the artwork that we're sent by the customers, not our customers, but like, our customers, they send them this artwork and it's just nowhere near ready. So now I'm going to, I need to close upscale because it's still remembering the image that we had before. So I'm going to open it back up. So it's 300 by 370 and I'm just going to try to take it to, let's just try to take it 4x and see if we can get something clean. So yeah, our customers send us this artwork, and they don't understand artwork. So yeah, much better results. Still not perfect, but way better and probably the best that we can do without using some AI tools. So then the next step would be to open up Inkscape. And Inkscape's a completely free program. So I've used Photoshop so far. You can always replace everything you see me do in Photoshop with Photopea. I don't like using Photopea myself because it's just, I have Photoshop. If you have Photoshop, just use Photoshop. Now I'm just dragging in that upscaled image and hitting OK. So I just drag it and dropped it on the stage. And then I'm just going to go to Trace Bitmap and hit Apply. And this is actually going to smooth it out even further. I mean, everything we do kind of affects the original. When it traced it, it didn't trace it perfectly. I see problems in this B. And if this was my customer's artwork, I would actually spend time, resolving those issues. Now this is my customer's artwork, so I'm just doing quick and dirty. That's what I need to do to make sure that we're making money and I'm not costing the company tons of time and money. But now we've got a vector object, and so I'm going to hit Control-Shift-R and actually make it fit that object. Okay. And then, now we have the challenge of changing this back to the original color. And then we need to restore the white areas. I mean, if this was going, and this is why it's really important when you ask for artwork help to explain to the designer, what color shirt is it going on? Because if it's going on a white shirt, well, we don't want that white. If it's going on a black shirt, then we definitely have to have that white if that's part of the logo and that's part of the design, So I'm just going to go back to the original artwork that I was given and drop it in. So I'm just dropping it in to get the color, okay? And I'm just going to click on this path, and I'm looking for what I think is a pretty part of the blue. I mean, we've got so much color variation everywhere. So again, I've got the image here. That's the original I got sent. I've got the path selected, and I'm just going to click on this pretty part of the blue right here and set that path to that blue, okay? And so now, this is passable. This is much better than what I was given. I actually probably shouldn't have deleted that other image. I'm going to pull that back in now. And my little thing pops up every time I do that, and it just says embed, and I'm just going to hit OK. And I could check this don't ask again, and I don't know why I don't. I should. But that's showing us where the white parts are supposed to be. So how can we do that here? So let's look at that. Okay, so our plan is to just create a white layer behind everything that we want to preserve the white on. And we're just going to assume it's solid white. And it's like pure white because, like I said, when things get passed around on the web, and I know we got this in a Google Drive file, that's great. But I don't know what happened to the image prior to that, So I'm just going to grab my node editor, and I'm going to click here. And I'm just clicking, so that's showing us all the different nodes. And I'm just going to click this outside part of this turtle. And I'm going to hit Control-A, and that's selected all the way around the turtle. So it's gone all the way around the outside. And I'm just going to hit Control-C. I'm copying those nodes to my clipboard. And I'm switching over here to my layers and objects so you can see what happens. I'm going to exit node edit mode and go back to just object mode. And I'm going to do Control-Alt-V. And that just pastes in place. And see how that's created another path. And so I'm going to call this turtle. And I'm actually going to call it color. And I'm going to move it up. And then this one, I'm also going to call turtle. So double click on it. Turtle, and I'm going to say white. And then I'm going to change the color, and I've just gone to my fill and stroke. If you don't have this open, you go to object fill and stroke. I just realized if you don't have that trace bitmap that we used earlier, you go to path trace bitmap. So sorry that I'm telling you that kind of out of order. And I'm going to go to fill and stroke, and I'm just going to drag, we're in RGB mode, so if you're in a different one, just switch to RGB. And I'm going to drag this over, and I'm just going to put it all the way over here to white. So now I've got those white areas there. And I'm just going to repeat that process. So here I might do something a little different, just so I don't have extra nodes all around the backside. I'll grab this interior part, Control-C, and then Control-Alt-V. And I'm just going to make that thing a little bit bigger. I might actually edit some of these nodes, just kind of showing you what you can do here. So let's look at this. I don't need all these. Okay, watch me struggle with this, right? So I'm just going to delete them. So let's just select all those little nodes and hit delete. And then we'll get this one deleted. Boom. And then I'm just going to swing these handles around so that they point at each other. And I see that that's opening up gaps and stuff, and that's okay. Because now I'm just going to scale this a little bit. So I switched out of node edit, and I'm just going to hold Alt. Oops, not Alt. It's Inkscape, Mike. It's not Photoshop. I held Shift and dragged the corner and made that a little bit bigger. And I'm actually now I just realized the best thing for me to do is to just take these vertices right here, Control A, Control C, and come back to my white and do Control Alt V. And then I can delete this path completely. And now I've just got a little white outline behind there. So let's keep checking our original. And so I've got to do all these bubbles, and I'm just going to literally do those the same way. I mean, you can even just draw, like this one right here, probably easier to just draw. Let's grab our turtle white. I'm going to slide this over a little bit so we can see a little bit more. And I don't know why I feel like I need to see this part too. Yeah, I'm just making sure I can see what's going on. And so I'm going to go into my turtle white, and I'm going to try to add to this path. So I'm just going to draw. And I mean, you don't have to make it curved, and you don't have to worry about anything. The overlap is fine. And now I've got white, all right? And I'm just going to Control A, Control C, go into my white, Control Alt V, and then delete that path. And now that white's back there, so that's now part of my white layer. And so I could literally Control A, Control C, and then Control Alt V, and then just put these different paths. Let's lock that color layer for now. And we could put these different paths behind these different parts and scale them down. I mean, I'm showing you different techniques to accomplish the same goal, So there's so many different ways to do what you want to do. Now I could take this turtle white up, and then I could hit Control K and combine them. And now that's combined back down into that layer. Okay, so I've just gone and actually just repeated those same operations that you saw. And now we have the white behind all the parts that we need. Actually, yeah, let me just make sure. So we're just going to go here, and we're just going to zoom in. Yeah, I've got whites through all those bubbles that we had before. So I'm just going to delete this original here. And just one last time, I'm going to hit Control Shift R. That's how you fit the objects to the document. So Control Shift R, just make sure that it's actually it either is based on what you have selected, or it's based on what is, if nothing's selected, then it just finds everything. And so, this is probably, this is much better than what we originally had. It won't be blurry anymore. But there's problems with it, and I'll show you what I mean. The problem that I see right here, it's just there's just a little bit of, not pretty curve to this B. And you could sit here and tweak this, and you could spend the rest of your life doing that if you wanted to. It's one of those things. And, you could tweak these things endlessly. They just really, could drive you crazy. I'm holding the middle mouse button to move around. Here's another little problem area that I see. So a lot of times, it just involves deleting the vertice and then changing one of these nodes to auto smooth. And that's really a good way to kind of get things pulled back into line and just get a little bit better curve. But those problems are going to exist all over. I mean, like I said, this is a much better version than what we had. Here's a little part where that circle's kind of flattened out. And so you'd be better off probably just setting a couple of these to auto smooth. And then just, that might have already resolved it slightly, but you could just pull this out just to kind of make the curve a little bit better. And that's what I mean too about you could tweak this endlessly. But let's try a different approach. So this was a decent result, no problem, but it worked, and I think it's fine. But let's try a different approach. So now we're going to go to ChatGPT, and this is a paid software. You get a free version where you can use some of it for free, but I've actually got the paid version, and I'm just going to upload that original image, and I'm going to make a prompt. Actually, I'm going to back up. I just realized you never want to give ChatGPT something that's all the way to the edge. So you actually want to come in here, and we just want to switch to our crop tool. You can do this in Photo P2. I just cleared a ratio that I had set on my crop tool up there. I'm just going to hold Alt and give it some space around. So you don't want it to be trimmed. We do want it to be trimmed in our final. We definitely do. But we don't want it to be trimmed while we're actually editing the image. So now I'm just going to upload that turtle, and that's the one that I just altered. And I can see that I've got my extra little space around, and then I'm going to write a prompt. Now, working with AI, you never know what you're going to get, so you just try to give it what you can. Recreate and redraw this image, prepare it for vector tracing. That's what we were just doing in Inkscape. Crisp, clean lines, print ready, and production quality. This image was expanded from a very small version. Imagine the details as they would have been originally. Make the design appealing and the letters crisp and distinct. And then we want to just choose create image and let it go. And every time I send a prompt, I always think after I've sent it that I could have done better. I probably should have told it that I wanted it black against whites, but it's not going to matter. We can do the same trick we did. If we can just get a cleaner, crisper version of the image, it's going to just result in a better result. So, yeah, I mean, my opinion, we've got more distinction on the letters. We've got a little bit more separation. And so, it's just all opinion. But my opinion is that I see a better actual design here. So let's just take this. I don't really see any problems. Let's download it. I'm looking for problems. It has kind of cut things off on this one side, which is a real, that is something that you definitely run into with ChatGPT. I'm going to select that ChatGPT image. It looks like it is there, though, all the pieces we need. And I'm going to upscale it. I'm going to go 3x. The way I make these decisions, it's just all dependent on the situation. It's just I don't have a system that I follow. I know that that's probably a great size for me to trace. I do see some changes that it's made. It's actually kind of screwed up this part right here. And so, this is what you get, though, right? You just work with what you're given, and you can tweak these things, like I say, endlessly. So let's do that same trick. We're going to do image adjustments, black and white. And we're just going to grab our blues and pull them down so that they're nice and black. We'll hit OK. I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to switch to where white's my background color and just pull this out just because it's driving me crazy that it's so close over there. And I'm just going to hit done. All right, and then we're going to export this, or I can actually just save right back over it because it's just a PNG. And so there's my upscaled version. So I'm clicking off and clicking back to downloads. I've got my sort by date modified. So when I do that, it brings the top, the one that I just most recently worked with up to the top. And, the problem that I see here, I just see this problem where this is connected. I think on the original, you'll get real good at noticing these types of things. Oh, that is from the original. I thought that would look better if that was actually a connected doodle through. So that is the original. So that's okay. And yeah, it's fixed. I think it's done a fabulous job. Okay. So we are saved. So now we've got our Inkscape document. Let's finish this one. So this, we're going to save this as, and I'm saving it in my downloads folder. And I'm just going to name it. I kind of had a convention going with this name, so I'm just going to rename, and I'm just doing that so I can Control C and copy that, not have to type it again. And I'm just going to put that there. And I'm going to call this version 1 SVG. So now I've saved the actual SVG that I can then open back up and continue to edit the way we have been in case we made a mistake. I'm also going to export it. So I'm going to export it. And I don't know how big they want this. I think it's a lot taller than it is wide. So I'm going to set 5700. That's another good thing to tell your designers what size you want it to be. And I noticed that the 5700, that's 19 inches tall, actually made the width wider than I ever go. So I'm going to do 4500 because I always use one of those constraints. I knew it was close to 19 inches if I made it 15 inches wide, but I'm making it 15 inches wide, which is 4,500 pixels. And I'm just going to export that. Now to totally finish this version of the image, I still need to open it up with either Photoshop or Photo P. because I just have one more step for professionalism. I need to set the image size. I want to turn resample off and just set the resolution to 300 and hit OK. And so it's 15 by 18, probably way bigger than they'll ever need it. And that's the important thing. We want to go big and not be working with something that's too small. And now I'm ready to do a new document. So I'm going to do File, New. Actually, I just had an idea. What if we just brought that same image in, our upscaled version? So there's our upscaled version that we just created. What if we brought that in here? Let's see what happens. So it's just popped up that little import. I'm going to say OK. And then what if we tried to size this to see how it lines up? So I'm going to hold Control. So when you scale something, if you don't hold Control, you're distorting it. But if you hold Control, it stays locked. And if you hold Shift at the same time, then it expands into the center. It expands, right where it is. And I'm just moving this in here. I'm zooming in. And I'm just going to try to line this up. So I'm actually going to move it down. And I'm just moving it down in the layer stack. And I've just moved it below the other one. And we're just going to see how perfectly we can get this to line up. Now, I will say that whenever you work with ChatGPT, things are not going to be perfect, right? So, all right, so I just kind of messed that up. I'm going to take these two, lock them. So I'm just tweaking the image, and I'm going to move this into place, kind of lining it up over here. And I know I need to be bigger, so I'm going to hold Control, scale it down here, scoot it back. I'm going to try to line up that staff word and see if that works. And this is another game you could play for very, very many hours. And you will never actually beat this game because there's AI involved, But we can also distort it slightly. So I'm just going to distort it just slightly. So I'm just pulling that out just a little bit without having Control selected. And that's kind of helping line this up. And now I'm focusing on the turtle and the circles and trying to make sure those are lined up well. Yeah, see, this is an endless struggle to get all these elements lined up. So I'm going to focus on the turtle. I'm distorting, I'm tweaking down, and trying to get those things to line up. Because what I'm doing is I'm trying to get closer back to the original. Because we know the ChatGPT one is altered, and also I'm trying to save my circles. I'm hoping that I can just move my circles around and not have to recreate all those circles. So let's turn these off. So I'm going to grab these two and I'm going to group them, and then I'm just going to hide them. Okay, and then I'm going to grab this one and we're going to just switch to our trace bitmap. Again, that's under Path, Trace Bitmap. And I'm just going to select this image. So I've got it clicked, so it's selected. It comes up in the preview, and I'm going to hit Apply. And now we've got our path, so we can delete the image. And I'm just going to name this Turtle 2. I'll call it Turtle Color 2. And then I'll turn this back on. And with my Turtle Color 2 selected, I'll grab I'm in my fill and stroke, so that's Object Fill and Stroke. I'll grab my color dropper and click it again. And now I can turn that off, and I can kind of jump between the two versions. And see, I think this is much better because you can read the text clearer. So that's just my opinion. Everything's not as thick. I think it's a better version. Now let's see if we can preserve our white layer. I don't think so. I think we need to just redraw the white, because the more I think about it, it's not going to line up perfectly. So we'll just follow those steps again real quick. I've got that off, so that's collapsed. We're just going to grab this, Control A, Control C. Let's do more this time. Let's grab that. this, this. Trying to get one piece of the outer edge of everything I'm going to trace. Control A, Control C, leave it, Control Alt V. I missed some. Okay, so I'm just gonna, I'll come back and get those. I'll scoot this down. I'm gonna change this to white. And now I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna go back to my edit tool and I'll grab this one and this one. Control A, Control C. Switch to my white. Control Alt V. And then I'm gonna call this turtle white 2. All right, and now we've got 2 versions. So this one needs to be trimmed. So I'm going to do Control Shift R, and I'm going to do File Save As, because I don't want to save over my version 1. I'm going to do version 2 and save it, and then I'm going to export again. So I'm going to do 4500 here, and I'm going to make sure to change the name here, version 2. Inkscape remembers what you exported it last time as. And now, I'm just going to go here, go to my downloads. There's my version 2. Open it up with Photoshop. And then I'm going to do image, size, turn off resample. It's not on now. And do 300. And hit OK. And then literally just do File Save. And that's going to save right over it. And see how nice those letters look now. I mean, I just think these are much better. I really highly recommend this version 2. Okay, well, I hope this helps somebody out there and helps you like clean up some artwork. And remember, this is not how you do everything. This is just the best approach that I could come up with for this particular image. Hey, thanks for ordering your transfers for Crystal DTF. You know it's only $1.75 a square foot. You know we ship for free at $25. And you know we get those orders out super quick. And it's the best quality on the planet. All right, take care.